Captain Veltar pressed her delicate crystal fingers against the control panel. Her ship was dying. The quiet contemplation had been a beautiful vessel once, built by her people with care and love. Now its hull was cracked in 12 places. Air leaked out into the cold darkness of space. Her crew of 12 scientists floated behind her, their crystal bodies glowing dimly with fear. They were researchers, not fighters. They studied stars and planets. They had never hurt anyone in their lives. The Zephyrians were a peaceful race that believed violence solved nothing, but peace meant nothing to the raiders who had attacked them. "Captain," whispered her first officer, Melkus, "the life support systems are failing. We have maybe 3 hours of air left." Veltar closed her eyes. 3 hours ago, they had been mapping a new star system. It was routine work. Boring, even. Then the ships had appeared out of nowhere. Big, ugly vessels that looked like metal predators. They belonged to the hegemony, a group of alien races that conquered and enslaved everyone they met. The hegemony ships had fired without warning. Their weapons tore through the quiet contemplation's shields like paper. Then the raiders had boarded. They wore thick armor and carried energy weapons that could melt crystal flesh. They spoke in harsh voices and their eyes were cold. The raid leader was a massive creature with 4 arms and scales like metal. He looked at the Zephyrians like they were insects. 12 specimens, he had growled. Too many for the holding cells. We take 6 now. Come back for the rest later. They had grabbed 6 of her crew members, including her daughter Lisara. The young scientist had screamed as they dragged her away. Veltar still heard that scream in her mind. "When will they return?" asked Melkus. "Soon," Veltar said. "They want the rest of us alive." Living slaves sell for more than dead ones. She stared at her control panel. Most systems were dark. The engines were gone. Weapons had never existed on their ship. Communications were damaged, but still working. "She had one choice left, Captain," said her science officer. "The quantum beacon. We could use it." Veltar's heart jumped. The quantum beacon was experimental technology. It could send a distress signal across many light years instantly. But it had never been tested at long range. They had built it to contact other Zephyrian ships nearby. "Where would we send it?" she asked. "The Altarian Council," Melkus said. "They are peaceful like us. Maybe they would help." The Altarians lived 70 light years away. They were gentle beings who loved art and music. They had some ships, but not many, and not strong ones. Still, it was better than nothing. Veltar's fingers moved over the controls. The beacon needed almost all their remaining power. If she used it, they would have only emergency life support left. But what choice did they have? "Sending distress signal," she announced. The beacon charged with a high whining sound. Energy flowed through damaged circuits. The signal built up power, ready to leap across space to the Altarian homeworld. Then something went wrong. A gravity wave from a nearby pulsar hit the signal just as it transmitted. The wave bent the message like light through water. Instead of flying toward Altarian space, the distress call curved in a different direction entirely. It shot toward an unknown star system that their map said was empty. Veltar saw the error on her screen. "No," she whispered. "The signal went the wrong way." "Where did it go?" asked Melkus. She checked the readings twice. "Grid section 447, there's nothing there. No colonies, no stations, just empty space." Her crew began to cry. Soft musical sounds that Zephyrians made when hope died. They had used their last power to send a message to nobody. But Veltar was wrong. That system was not empty. Far away, past the edge of known space, the human military base called Firebase Cerberus received the alien message. The base was new, built to guard humanity's frontier. It housed the 3rd Strike Group of the Terran Defense Fleet. Admiral Sarah Chen was in the command center when the signal arrived. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had fought in 3 wars and commanded fleets for 20 years. Right now she was watching her ships practice battle formations. "Admiral," called her communications officer. "We're getting a strange transmission." "Strange how?" Chen asked. "It's not human. The computer says it's a distress call, but the language is unknown." "The AI is trying to translate," Chen frowned. Humanity had been traveling between stars for only 30 years. They had never met another intelligent race. Most humans thought they were alone in the universe. "Put it through," she ordered. Static filled the speakers. Then words began to form as the computer worked to translate. "Help. Peaceful ship. Attacked by raiders. Crew taken. Ship dying, please. The message repeated several times, then cut off. The command center fell silent. Every human officer stared at the speakers. My God, whispered the communications officer. We're not alone. Admiral Chen's mind raced. This could be a trick, some kind of trap, but the message sounded real, desperate. If there really were peaceful aliens under attack, they needed help. She thought about the code she had learned at the Naval Academy. The first rule of space: aid those who cannot aid themselves. It didn't matter if they were human or alien. If someone needed help, you helped them. How far away is that signal? She asked. About 6 light years, Admiral. We could be there in 2 hours. Chen looked at the tactical display. Her strike group had 13 ships. Cruisers, destroyers, and fighters, all armed with humanity's best weapons. They were out here to protect Earth's colonies from pirates and raiders. Maybe it was time to protect someone else. All ships, she announced over the fleet communication system. This is Admiral Chen. Prepare for emergency jump. We have a rescue mission. Her officers began working quickly. Ship engines powered up. Navigation computers calculated jump coordinates. Marines loaded weapons and checked armor. Within minutes, the human fleet was ready. 13 warships filled with 5,000 of Earth's best fighters. Jump in 3, 2, 1, execute. Space twisted around the human ships. They vanished from Firebase Cerberus and reappeared 6 light years away, near a dying alien vessel. Admiral Chen didn't know it yet, but she had just made the most important decision in galactic history. The distress call meant for peaceful aliens had reached warriors instead. And these particular warriors had a very strong opinion about people who attacked the innocent. The Zephyrians were about to learn that sometimes the universe sends exactly what you need, even when it's not what you asked for. In her damaged ship, Captain Veltar felt her vessel shake as 13 massive shapes appeared in space around her. At first she thought the raiders had returned early with more ships. Then she saw the newcomers clearly and gasped. These ships were like nothing in any database. They were angular and dark, covered in armor and weapons. They moved like hungry predators circling prey. Energy readings showed power levels that made her crystal body glow with amazement. A transmission reached her ship. The voice was alien, but somehow the meaning was clear. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. Are you in need of assistance? Veltar's hand shook as she reached for the reply button. Yes, she whispered. Please help us. She didn't know who these humans were or where they came from, but she felt something she hadn't felt in hours, hope. Captain Galactic stretched his forearms and smiled with too many teeth. The Bloodrender was returning to collect the rest of the Zephyrian crew. He expected to find them waiting quietly, ready to be loaded into slave containers. The Crystal people never fought back. None of the peaceful races did. That's what made them perfect slaves. They were smart enough to be useful but too gentle to resist. His cargo holds already contained 6 of them, including a young female who would sell for a high price. Captain, his sensor officer called out. I'm reading multiple ships near the research vessel. Galac's smile faded. What kind of ships? Unknown configuration. 13 vessels in defensive formation around the target. That was impossible. The Zephyrians had no military. Neither did any other race in this sector. The hegemony had made sure of that over the past 200 years. Show me, Galactic ordered. The main screen filled with an image that made his blood run cold. 13 ships floated in perfect formation around the damaged Zephyrian vessel. But these were not like any ships he had ever seen. Most spacefaring races built vessels that looked alive. Smooth curves and flowing lines that moved through space like swimming creatures. Even hegemony ships designed for war had some grace to them. These ships looked like flying fortresses. All angles and armor plating. Weapon arrays covered every surface. The largest one was twice the size of his heavy cruiser and radiated enough energy to power a small moon. What race builds ships like that? His weapons officer whispered. None that I know of, Galactic replied. But his voice shook a little. A transmission reached the hegemony fleet. The voice spoke in the common galactic language, but with an accent Galactic had never heard. This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. You will cease hostile actions and withdraw immediately, or we will withdraw you. Galac's mandibles clicked with nervous laughter. Terran? He had never heard of any Terrans. They must be some new race that didn't know how things worked in this part of the galaxy. Unknown ships, he transmitted back. I am Captain Galactic of the Hegemony Third Fleet. You are interfering with a legal salvage operation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The response came quickly. Captain Galak, this is Admiral Chen. The only consequences here will be yours if you do not leave. These people are under our protection now. Galak felt anger replace his nervousness. How dare these aliens threaten him? The hegemony ruled 12 star systems. Their fleets had conquered hundreds of worlds. No race had ever stood against them and survived. He turned to his tactical officer. Are those ships armed? Yes, sir. Heavy armament, but their design is primitive. All kinetic weapons and simple energy projectors, nothing we can't handle. Then let's teach these Terrans about hegemony power, Galak snarled. All ships attack formation. Target the largest vessel first. The 3 hegemony cruisers moved forward. Their shields glowed as power flowed to weapons. Plasma cannons charged with deadly energy. Behind them, 12 fighter craft spread out to attack from multiple angles. Admiral Chen watched the enemy ships advance on her tactical display. The aliens were about to learn something that pirates near Earth had discovered the hard way. Humans didn't just fight to win. They fought like their survival depended on it. Because for millions of years it had. All ships defensive pattern Delta, she ordered calmly. Point defense systems active. Fighters launch when ready. The human ships moved like they were dancing. Each vessel knew exactly where the others would be. It was a coordination that came from thousands of hours of training and an understanding of war that was built into human DNA. The hegemony ships opened fire first. Plasma beams and missile volleys shot toward the human formation. The aliens expected to see shields collapse and hull armor melt. Instead, they saw something impossible. The human point defense systems came alive. Thousands of small guns fired at the same time. Every missile vanished in a cloud of explosions. Plasma beams hit walls of defensive fire and scattered harmlessly. Then the humans fired back. The sound of human railguns was like thunder in space. Massive projectiles moving at incredible speed punched through hegemony shields like they weren't there. The first alien cruiser took 3 hits in 2 seconds. Its hull cracked open and atmosphere poured out. Human fighters poured from launch bays like angry hornets. They moved faster than anything the hegemony had ever seen. Their weapons fired in perfect coordination, focusing on weak points in enemy armor. Captain Galak watched his fleet die around him. The second cruiser exploded when a human missile found its reactor. His fighters lasted less than a minute against the alien interceptors. Impossible, he whispered. They're just one primitive race. His tactical officer was screaming damage reports. Shields down to 30%. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Weapons offline. The human flagship moved toward the blood render like a predator approaching wounded prey. Galak could see gun ports opening along its hull. Enough firepower to turn his ship into scrap metal. But the final blow never came. Instead, blue energy wrapped around his ship. A tractor beam pulled the crippled cruiser toward the human vessel. Admiral Chen's voice filled his bridge. Captain Galak, you are now a prisoner of the Terran Defense Fleet. Power down all remaining systems and prepare to be boarded. Galak looked at his tactical display. The battle had lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds. His 3 cruisers and 12 fighters had been destroyed or captured by aliens he had never heard of. Aliens who fought like the universe's most perfect killers. But even as his ship was dragged toward the human vessel, he saw something that confused him. The first thing the humans did after winning was send rescue ships to help the Zephyrians. Medical teams and engineers transferred to the damaged research vessel. What kind of warriors stopped to help their enemies' former victims? On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen studied the captured alien ship. Her intelligence officers were already working to crack their computers and learn about this hegemony they claimed to represent. Admiral, her communications officer reported. The Zephyrian captain wants to thank us personally. Put her through, Chen said. The main screen showed a delicate creature made of what looked like living crystal. She glowed softly with emotions that the human computer was still learning to translate. I am Captain Veltar, the alien said. You saved our lives. But I must warn you, the hegemony is very powerful. They rule many worlds. When they learn what you did here, they will come for you. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. Captain Veltar, let me tell you something about humans. We've been waiting our whole history for someone to come for us. The only difference is now we have spaceships. She turned to her tactical officer. What's our status? All ships operational, Admiral. Minor damage to the Resolute and Defiant. No casualties, Chen nodded. Humanity had just fought its first battle against alien enemies. They had won without losing a single person. But she suspected this was just the beginning. In the medical bay, human doctors worked alongside Zephyrian medics to treat the wounded. The aliens were amazed by human medical technology. It was designed for a species that had spent millions of years hurting each other in creative ways. Dr. Marcus Webb, the fleet's chief medical officer, studied the Zephyrian biology with fascination. "Your people are beautiful," he told Veltar. "Like living gems." "Your people are terrifying," she replied. "But in a good way," Webb laughed. "That's humans for you. We're very good at being scary when we need to be." As the human fleet prepared to escort the Zephyrians to safety, Admiral Chen received the intelligence report from the captured hegemony computers. What she read made her blood run cold. The hegemony controlled 12 star systems through terror and slavery. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and enslaved dozens of intelligent species. They had never met meaningful resistance because they attacked only peaceful races. But now they had made a mistake. They had attacked someone under human protection. Chen looked out at the stars and made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. The hegemony thought they were the apex predators of space. They were about to learn that Earth had sent its own predators to the stars. And human predators had evolved for one specific purpose: protecting their pack. The hegemony had just made themselves humanity's enemy. They had no idea what that meant, but they were about to find out. Captain Veltar had never been afraid of other people before the humans rescued her. The Zephyrians were a peaceful race who believed all intelligent life was sacred. They had never met a species they couldn't talk to and understand. But standing in the medical bay of the human ship Indomitable, Veltar felt something new. Not fear exactly, but a deep respect born from watching these aliens fight. Everything about them spoke of controlled violence. Even their medical equipment looked dangerous. The surgical tools could probably be used as weapons. The diagnostic machines hummed with enough power to level buildings. Yet the human doctors used them with incredible gentleness on her injured crew. Admiral Chen entered the medical bay and Veltar studied her carefully. The human was smaller than most of her crew, but she moved like a predator. Her eyes faced forward like a hunter's. When she spoke, everyone listened immediately. "Captain Veltar," Chen said, "how are your people doing?" The translation device made Chen's words understandable, but Veltar could hear the concern in her voice. "Much better, thanks to your doctors. Dr. Webb says my injured crew members will recover completely." Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from where he was treating a Zephyrian with a cracked crystal arm. He was a large man with gentle hands and kind eyes. "Your people's biology is fascinating," he said. "You're silicon-based rather than carbon-based like us, but your nervous systems work in similar ways." "You learn quickly," Veltar observed. "We have to," Chen said. "This is our first meeting with alien life. We want to do everything right." Veltar's crystal body glowed with surprise. "First meeting? But your ships, your weapons, you fight like you've been doing it for thousands of years." A sad smile crossed Chen's face. "We have been. Just not in space. Humans are very good at fighting, Captain. We've had lots of practice on our own world." That explained much about these strange aliens. Their ships looked like weapons because their builders thought like warriors. Their medical knowledge was so advanced because they had spent centuries learning to heal the damage they did to each other. "Tell me about the hegemony," Chen continued. "How long have they been raiding in this area?" Veltar's glow dimmed with sadness. "More than 200 years. They control 12 star systems now. Dozens of species serve them as slaves." "What kind of species?" "Peaceful ones, mostly. The hegemony doesn't attack races that can fight back. They prefer easy targets: artists, scientists, philosophers. People who chose knowledge over weapons." Chen's jaw tightened. "And no one has ever tried to stop them?" "How could we?" Veltar asked. "We don't have warships." "We don't know how to fight. Violence is against everything we believe." "I understand," Chen said. "But sometimes violence is the only thing that stops more violence." A human officer approached them. She was tall and lean with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Admiral, I'm Lieutenant Commander Santos from Intelligence. I've finished questioning the hegemony prisoners." "What did you learn?" Santos consulted her tablet. "The hegemony is exactly what Captain Veltar described. A confederation of aggressive species that preys on peaceful ones. They have over 40,000 ships spread across their territory." Veltar saw Chen's expression darken. 40,000 ships sounded like an impossible number to fight, but Santos wasn't finished. However, most of their fleet consists of patrol vessels and transports. They only have about 2,000 actual warships, and those are designed to intimidate, not fight real battles. They've never had to fight real battles, Veltar said quietly. No one has ever fought back before. That's about to change, Chen said. Santos activated a holographic display showing star charts. The prisoners told us about their slave processing stations. There are 5 major facilities where they take captured people before selling them to buyers across hegemony space. Veltar's crystal form began to glow brighter as hope grew inside her. My daughter Lisara and the others from my ship. They might be at one of those stations? Probably the one here, Santos said, pointing to a system marked in red. It's called Scarth, the main processing center for this sector. If your people are still alive, that's where they'll be. Chen studied the display carefully. How heavily defended? Very. Orbital defense platforms, shield generators, and a permanent garrison of 50 warships. It's supposed to be impregnable. Supposed to be, Chen repeated with a cold smile. Veltar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. She was seeing the human admiral make a decision that would change everything. Admiral, Santos continued, there's something else. According to their computers, the hegemony has enslaved over 3 million people from 47 different species. Most of them are still alive, scattered across labor camps and processing stations. The medical bay fell silent. 3 million slaves. 47 species living in bondage while their captors grew rich from their suffering. Chen looked around at her officers. Recommendations? We should report back to Earth, one officer suggested. Let the government decide how to handle this. By the time Earth sends a response, thousands more people will be enslaved, Chen replied. Including Captain Veltar's daughter. Admiral, Dr. Webb said carefully. We're talking about taking on an entire interstellar empire with 13 ships. 14, corrected the ship's AI. Captain Veltar's vessel is badly damaged but repairable. Our engineers estimate 6 hours to restore basic functions. Chen looked at Veltar. What do you think, Captain? Your people don't fight, but would they help us rescue the slaves? Veltar's crystal body blazed with sudden light. Admiral Chen, my people believe all life is sacred. We may not know how to fight, but we know right from wrong. If you're going to rescue those people, we want to help. Even if it means war with the hegemony, especially if it means war with the hegemony. Chen nodded slowly. Then we need to contact Earth, not for permission, but for reinforcements. She turned to her communications officer. Send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them we've made contact with alien life, discovered an ongoing slave trade, and are planning immediate rescue operations. Request all available ships. Admiral, Santos said, even if Earth sends every ship we have, it might not be enough to take on the entire hegemony. You're right, Chen agreed. But we don't need to take on the entire hegemony. We just need to free the slaves and show everyone else that the hegemony can be beaten. She looked at the star chart again. Once word spreads that someone fought back and won, others will find their courage. The hegemony's power comes from fear. Take away the fear, and they're just another group of bullies. Dr. Webb finished treating the last injured Zephyrian and approached the group. The hegemony prisoners are asking to speak with you, Admiral. What do they want? To surrender formally, I think. They seem terrified of what their superiors will do when they learn about this battle. Chen considered this. Bring their captain to the briefing room. I want to understand exactly what we're up against. As the humans prepared for their meeting with the captured hegemony officer, Veltar watched them work. These aliens were unlike anything she had imagined. They combined deadly efficiency with genuine compassion. They could destroy enemy fleets without hesitation, then immediately turn to healing the wounded. Most amazing of all, they seemed to think that fighting for others was natural. They didn't see themselves as heroes for wanting to rescue slaves. To them, it was simply the right thing to do. Veltar thought about her daughter, somewhere in a hegemony prison, probably wondering if anyone would ever come for her. Soon Lisara would learn that someone had answered their distress call, not the peaceful Altarians they had hoped for, but something far more effective. Warriors who fought not for conquest or glory, but for the simple belief that innocent people deserved to be free. The hegemony had ruled through fear for 2 centuries. They were about to discover that humans had spent their entire evolution learning how to destroy things that scared them. And right now, Nothing scared humans more than bullies who hurt the innocent. High Warlord Thexel stood on the command deck of his fortress world and felt truly safe for the first time in weeks. Scarth was the crown jewel of hegemony space, protected by massive orbital weapons platforms and energy shields that could stop any attack. The slave processing facilities below housed over 50,000 prisoners from dozens of species. Fresh arrivals came in daily from raids across the sector. Business was good, but disturbing reports had reached him from the frontier. Captain Galac's fleet had been destroyed by unknown aliens. 3 heavy cruisers and 12 fighters gone in minutes. The survivors spoke of ships that fought like nothing they had ever seen. Thexel wasn't worried. Galac was a fool who had probably been caught off guard by some new pirate gang. Real threats couldn't reach Scarth. The orbital defenses would stop anything. He was reviewing the day's slave manifests when his sensor officer's voice cut through the command center's calm. High Warlord, multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace at the system edge. Thexel looked up from his reports. How many ships? 47. No, 48 contacts confirmed. The Warlord's 4 hearts skipped a beat. 48 ships was larger than most hegemony fleets. What species? Unknown configuration on all vessels. Some are military design, but others appear to be converted civilian ships. Thexel moved to the main display and felt his blood turn cold. The approaching fleet was unlike anything in his databases. Most of the ships were clearly built for war, but mixed among them were cargo haulers with weapons welded to their hulls, mining vessels bristling with improvised armor, and even what looked like passenger liners converted for battle. It was a fleet assembled quickly from whatever ships were available. The kind of desperate force someone would gather for a rescue mission they couldn't wait to plan properly. Time to weapons range? He asked. At current speed, 6 hours. 6 hours to prepare for the largest battle in Scarth's history. Thexel activated the fortress world's defense systems. Massive guns emerged from hidden bunkers. Shield generators hummed to life. Fighter squadrons launched from underground hangars. But even as his defenses activated, Thexel felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Uncertainty. Aboard the human flagship Indomitable, Admiral Chen reviewed the final attack plan with her combined fleet commanders. Ships from Earth's 3rd, 7th, and 9th fleets had answered her call for reinforcements. The cargo haulers and civilian vessels had come on their own when word of the slave rescue spread. Captain Rex Morrison commanded one of the converted mining ships. His vessel Hard Bargain had been fitted with military shields and weapons by volunteers working around the clock. His crew were miners and engineers, not soldiers, but they had insisted on joining the mission. My grandfather was a slave, Morrison had told Chen. Different kind, different planet, but still a slave. No way I'm sitting this one out. The plan was complex but necessary. Scarth's defenses were too strong for a direct assault. They needed to be clever. First wave will be the fastest ships, Chen explained to her commanders. Destroyers and converted racers will hit the outer perimeter and draw their fighters away from the orbital platforms. What about those platforms? Asked Captain Torres of the Relentless. That's where our miners come in, Chen said with a grim smile. Captain Morrison leaned forward. My people know explosives, Admiral. We can take out those platforms, but we'll need to get close. You'll get close, Chen promised. The second wave will punch a hole in their fighter screen. Third wave will be our heavy hitters going straight for the slave facilities. Colonel Janet O'Brien spoke up from the Marine section. What about ground resistance? Intel suggests most hegemony ground forces are used to fighting unarmed civilians, Chen replied. They're not prepared for actual soldiers, O'Brien nodded. Her Marines had trained for urban combat their entire careers. The hegemony was about to learn the difference between terrorizing helpless prisoners and fighting Earth's finest. One more thing, Chen said. We're not just here to rescue prisoners. We're here to send a message. Every species in this galaxy needs to see that the hegemony can be beaten. The attack began exactly as planned. Human destroyers screamed toward Scarth at maximum speed, their engines leaving bright trails across space. The Fortress World's fighters launched to intercept them, just as Chen had hoped. While the first wave played tag with enemy fighters, the converted mining ships approached from a different angle. They flew through the battle zone like they belonged there, using their small size and civilian signatures to avoid notice. Captain Morrison watched his sensors as they closed on the first orbital platform. Just like mining an asteroid, he told his crew, except this asteroid shoots back. The mining ships carried shaped charges designed to crack open solid rock. They also carried men and women who had spent their lives working in dangerous places where one mistake meant death. "Platform dead ahead," called his navigator. "Defense guns are tracking us." "Hold course," Morrison replied. "Wait for my signal." Energy beams flashed past his ship as the platform's guns opened fire. Morrison's crew flew through the defensive fire with the skill of people who navigated asteroid fields for a living. "Now," Morrison shouted. Shaped charges fired from his ship's mining launchers. They struck the platform's structure at precisely calculated points. Steel and concrete exploded outward as the charges did what they were designed to do: break apart solid objects. The orbital platform died in a chain of explosions that lit up the night side of Scarth. All around the fortress world, similar scenes played out. Mining ships used industrial tools as weapons while converted freighters provided cover fire. It was improvised, chaotic, and absolutely devastating. High Warlord Thexel watched his supposedly impregnable defenses crumble. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "They're using mining equipment as weapons," his tactical officer reported. "And their coordination is perfect. It's like they've fought together for years." But the humans hadn't fought together for years. Most of these crews had never met before today. What they shared was something more powerful than training: a common purpose. Every human in the fleet understood what they were fighting for. Freedom for the enslaved, justice for the innocent, the chance to show the galaxy that bullies could be stopped. The third wave hit the planet's surface as the orbital defenses fell silent. Marines in drop pods crashed through Scarth's atmosphere like falling stars. Their targets were the slave processing facilities scattered across the planet's surface. Colonel O'Brien led the assault on the main complex. Her Marines moved through the hegemony defenses like a force of nature. The aliens had never faced soldiers who fought with human intensity. Hegemony guards were used to prisoners who cowered in fear. They broke and ran when faced with warriors who advanced through weapons fire without hesitation. "Building secured," O'Brien reported as her Marines cleared the main prison block. "Beginning prisoner evacuation." Inside the facility, thousands of aliens from dozens of species stared in amazement as human soldiers freed them from their chains. Many had been captives for years. Some had given up hope of ever seeing their homeworlds again. Captain Veltar was with the rescue team searching for her daughter. She found Lysara in a holding cell with other young Zephyrians. The reunion was everything she had hoped for, but there was no time to celebrate. "We need to move," a Marine sergeant told them. "More hegemony ships are coming." The evacuation was a masterpiece of organized chaos. Human ships landed at processing centers across the planet. Freed slaves were loaded onto transports as quickly as possible. Medical teams treated the injured while engineers disabled hegemony equipment. But victory came at a cost. The humans lost 12 ships in the battle. Over 300 personnel died freeing people they had never met. Each loss was felt throughout the fleet. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge and watched the casualty reports come in. Good people had died today. The best kind of people who fought for others instead of themselves. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from the remaining hegemony forces." "Accept their surrender," Chen ordered. "But make sure they understand something. This is just the beginning." As the human fleet prepared to leave Scarth with 50,000 rescued slaves, Chen sent a message that would be heard across the galaxy. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. Today we freed this world from those who would enslave the innocent. To any species listening, know this: humanity stands with those who cannot stand for themselves. The age of unopposed tyranny is over." High Warlord Thexel, now a prisoner aboard a human ship, listened to that message and understood something terrible. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had started a revolution. Across hegemony space, enslaved species heard Chen's words and began to hope. On distant worlds, resistance movements started planning. The galaxy was about to change in ways no one could predict. The hegemony had ruled through fear for 2 centuries. But humans had brought something more powerful than fear to the stars. They had brought hope, and hope, once lit, spreads faster than any fleet. 6 months after the liberation of Scarth, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Captain Veltar stood in the observation deck of the Zephyrian embassy on Earth, watching human children play in the gardens below. The children were laughing as they chased each other around playground equipment that sat next to a memorial for the soldiers who had died freeing alien slaves. Only humans, Veltar thought, would put symbols of joy and sorrow so close together. Ambassador, her aide said, using her new title. The human fleet commanders are ready for your briefing. Veltar had become the first alien ambassador to Earth after the rescue. Her people had voted unanimously to ally with humanity. So had 17 other species that the humans had freed from hegemony control. She walked through corridors lined with artwork from dozens of worlds. Human diplomats had insisted that the embassy showcase the cultures they were protecting. It was typical of these strange aliens who built weapons and gardens with equal skill. In the briefing room, Admiral Chen waited with the commanders of Task Force Liberation. The force had grown from 13 ships to over 200. Some were human vessels, but many belonged to species that had found their courage after watching Scarth fall. Ambassador, Chen said with a smile, how are your people settling in? Very well, Veltar replied. Though we're still amazed by human cities. You build universities next to military bases, art museums beside weapons factories. We've learned that civilization needs both protection and beauty, Chen said. What's the latest from the hegemony border? Veltar activated a holographic display showing the current tactical situation. 6 more hegemony worlds have fallen to liberation forces. The Korthak warrior clans have joined our alliance. So have the Valdris hunter packs. Chen studied the display with satisfaction. The Korthak and Valdris were predator species like humans. They had been hiding on the edges of known space, afraid to challenge hegemony power alone. But with humanity leading the charge, they had emerged from the shadows. What about resistance movements? Asked Captain Morrison, whose mining ship crews had become experts at destroying fortifications. Growing stronger every day, Veltar reported. The hegemony is facing uprisings on 23 worlds. Their forces are spread thin trying to maintain control. Colonel O'Brien leaned forward. My Marines are ready for the next operation. Where do we hit them? Chen pointed to a system marked in red on the star chart. Here. The hegemony is massing their remaining fleet at Kralthon for a final push against Earth. They want to crush humanity before the resistance spreads any further. How many ships? Morrison asked. Every vessel they can still crew, Veltar said quietly. Over 800 warships under Supreme Warlord Gextar himself. Everything they have left. The room fell silent. 800 ships was a massive force even by hegemony standards. It was meant to be humanity's punishment for daring to fight back. But Admiral Chen smiled coldly. Good. It's time to end this. She activated another display showing the Allied fleet assembling near Earth. We have 400 ships from 12 different species. Every freed world has sent vessels. This won't just be humanity fighting the hegemony. It will be everyone they've oppressed getting their revenge. Captain Torres of the Relentless studied the numbers. We're still outnumbered 2-1. Yes, Chen agreed. But we have something they don't. What's that? Asked O'Brien. We know what we're fighting for. 3 days later, the largest space battle in galactic history began at the edge of the Sol system. Supreme Warlord Gextar led his massive fleet toward Earth, expecting to crush human resistance and restore hegemony dominance. Instead, he found himself facing a coalition unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside Zephyrian research vessels converted to carry weapons. Korthak battle cruisers coordinated with Valdris hunter ships. Former slaves fought beside their liberators in a display of unity that made Gextar's mandibles click with worry. The battle began when the first hegemony ships entered weapons range, but instead of the chaotic fighting Gextar expected, he faced something far more dangerous. Perfect coordination. The Allied fleet moved like a single organism. Human tactical doctrine combined with alien innovations to create strategies no single species could have developed alone. Zephyrian scientists had improved human shield technology. Korthak warriors had taught human marines new fighting techniques. Valdris hunters had shared stealth technology that made ships nearly invisible. Admiral Chen commanded the battle from the bridge of the Indomitable, but she wasn't fighting alone. Veltar was beside her, coordinating with Zephyrian vessels. Korthak war leader Thakmor provided tactical advice. Valdris Packmaster Sylvan guided stealth strikes. Enemy fleet in attack formation, reported the tactical officer. All ships, Chen announced on the fleet-wide channel. Remember what we're fighting for. Not just our worlds, but freedom itself. The hegemony attacked with overwhelming force, but they faced something they had never encountered. an enemy that fought for more than just survival. Human ships took terrible damage but kept fighting. When the Defiant lost its engines, its captain rammed his vessel into a hegemony dreadnought. When Zephyrian vessels were overwhelmed, human fighters appeared to escort them to safety. The battle raged for hours. Ships died on both sides, but slowly the hegemony began to falter. Their forces had been spread thin across their empire. Many of their best ships had been destroyed in previous battles. Most importantly, they were fighting to preserve an empire built on cruelty. The Allied forces were fighting for something more powerful, the belief that all intelligent life deserved freedom. Supreme Warlord, Gextar watched his fleet crumble around him. Ship after ship reported critical damage or complete destruction. His supposedly invincible armada was being torn apart by aliens who refused to surrender. Supreme Warlord, his communications officer called out. The humans are requesting our surrender. Gextar looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was gone. The survivors were badly damaged and surrounded. His flagship's shields were failing, and human fighters circled like predators waiting for the kill. But the final blow never came. Instead, Admiral Chen's voice filled his bridge. Supreme Warlord Gextar, this is Admiral Chen, your fleet is defeated. Surrender now and your surviving crews will be treated according to the laws of war. Laws of war? Gextar had never heard humans mention such things. The hegemony showed no mercy to defeated enemies. Why? He asked over the communication channel. Why offer quarter to your enemies? Chen's answer would be remembered throughout galactic history. Because we're not trying to replace your empire with our own. We're trying to build something better. The surrender of the hegemony fleet marked the end of 2 centuries of tyranny. But for Admiral Chen and her allies, it was just the beginning. As rescued prisoners returned to their homeworlds and former slaves rebuilt their civilizations, a new alliance took shape among the stars. It was based not on conquest or dominance, but on mutual protection and shared values. Captain Veltar stood once again in the embassy observation deck, watching human children play. But now alien youngsters played with them. Korthak cubs learned human games while human children marveled at Zephyrian crystal songs. The Garden Memorial had grown to honor all the species that had fought for freedom. Names from dozens of worlds were carved in stone, remembering those who had died so others could live free. Admiral Chen found her there as the sun set over the capital. Thinking about the future? She asked. About the past, Veltar replied. About a distress signal that went to the wrong place. Chen smiled. Did it go to the wrong place? Or exactly where it needed to go? I've wondered about that, Veltar admitted. The Altarians would have tried to help us diplomatically. They would have filed protests and sent official complaints. But you needed warriors, Chen said. We needed protectors, Veltar corrected. There's a difference, she was right. The galaxy had been full of warriors for millions of years, species that fought for territory, resources, or dominance. But humans were something rarer, warriors who fought for others. They had evolved as pack hunters who protected their families and communities. When they reached the stars, they had simply expanded their definition of pack to include anyone who needed protection. The hegemony had thought they were facing just another species to be enslaved. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a pack with a conscience and the firepower to enforce it. As night fell over Earth, ships from dozens of worlds prepared to return to their homes. They carried with them something precious, proof that tyranny could be defeated and that somewhere in the dark galaxy, there were protectors watching over the innocent. The distress signal that had started it all was still traveling through space, carrying a message of hope to any who might hear it. It no longer said, "Help us," now it said, "We are not alone." In the depths of space, other species heard that message and began to hope. Pirates reconsidered their choice of prey. Tyrants looked over their shoulders with new nervousness. The peaceful races of the galaxy looked up at the stars and saw protectors where once they had seen only darkness. Humanity had answered one distress call and changed the galaxy forever. The age of unopposed cruelty was over. The age of protection had begun.